welcome back to Know Himself on Value and Limits of Self-Knowledge. We are now embarking on part of this course in which our focus will be theories of the unconscious as well as theories of the emotions. Today I want to focus primarily on Sigmund Freud and the psychoanalytic theory that will help to develop and popularize. This is by no means an attempt to give a comprehensive discussion of psychoanalysis. It was a huge, highly influential moment for much of the 20th century, but I want today just to focus on some of that I take to be the core aspect of Sigmund Freud, so develop of that theory, hoping that some of the points that we make will be able to shed light on much larger ones that are of interesting to us in this course. So Sigmund Freud is a psychologist, was trained as a physical scientist, primarily as a biologist. He did a lot of work on the neurobiology of fishes in the early part of his career. And the reading that I want to have associated him with our discussion today is a book of his called Introductory Lectures of Psychoanalysis. That was the record of a series of lectures that he gave in 1960-1970 at the University of Vienna. When you read Freud, part of that I think you'll find interesting is that he has his own version of the Socratic method. Of course, when you are right, it's very difficult to engage in a poor Socratic dialogue because, of course, your God is not clear how you could engage your interlocutor, your audience, by asking them questions. By Freud comes in interestingly close and makes a provocative methodology in the process, and that is you'll often find him making statement, making hypothesis, offering explanation of phenomena, stating his position. By when you see him say things like this, I can hear an objection arising from you now, not because he's literally claiming to hear somebody making an objection, by rather he's imagining an interlocutor raising a word about his point of view. He's imagining someone resisting that he's saying in such a way, and then will come back and respond to that with his own counter argument. This is a good method for argumentative writing and argumentative speaking, for the reason that not only does it give you a chance to state your position and your reason for it, it is also allows you to allay some of the skepticism, some of the doubts that an audience might have. If you are able to do that successfully, to bring them over to your side that much more fully. So it's an aspect of Freud's methodology that is interesting and think very successful. But the epistemic peculiarities of that Freud refers to as psychoanalysis, and one of them is that, as he say, objective of verification for that theory. Then ask how one know whether that theory is true. His answer is well, one learned psychoanalysis on oneself by studying one's own personality. As most experimental psychologists today would tell you, neuroscientists today would tell you that probably is not a very good methodology because it doesn't involve random sampling, it doesn't involve controlled trials. It's too easy to come up with subjective answer to questions that are perhaps affected by your expectation as to how the question should be answered. So this is not a methodology that would pass muster according to contemporary theorizing. Furthermore, ever offers on teams. I want to suggest that that statement of his does not quite fully respect his way of justifying his theory, and the reason is as follows. It seems to me in the background of some of his theorizing we'll see precisely how that works in a moment. In the background of some of his theorizing with a principle which in itself perfectly objective and allows theorizing to be put up to scrutiny that anybody can assess, and that is what philosophers of science have referred to as the principle of inference to the best explanation. Inference to the best explanation says the following: when you're confronted with a puzzling phenomenon or range of phenomena, adapt that hypothesizing there is one that best explains it. These notions of inference to the best explanation can do with some backing, and I'll try to explain that a little bit now. First of all, I know it's not always clear that count as best, but the best explanations. Some explanations seems appealing, but they are not the best because, for example, they are necessarily complicated, or perhaps because they don't carefully with our things we already have established. Likewise, there might not be any explanation of a range of phenomena that goes above a certain threshold, reminding ourselves of that the Delphic oracle said to Socrates' friends, Chapan, we might notice that being the best explanation might be because of our explanations are terrible, and this one that you have in modestly okay. That might not make him acceptable. We might need to have that explanation be above a certain threshold. All those qualification in mind, we can still say that part of that first methodology seems to presuppose is that when you got something puzzling, some aspect of human behavior, for example, that puzzling, you should look for explanation that most directly, simply, effectively, compellingly account for it, and we'll be asking ourselves where the theories that Freud gives are consistently of that sort. This or may be his justifying his position in an